interesting about the feminism thing.
Sure.
Do you identify as a feminist?
I think that women and men are fantastic. Both of us are fantastic. I think women reproduce. I think women need to be respected, protected, provided for. I think that modern feminism is kind of hard for me to even truly understand.
What do you think it means? What is feminism?
I think that the idea of feminism is that men and women are equal under the law.
And do you believe that?
Completely.
We should be treated completely equally.
Yeah, but we are equal under the law. Wouldn't you agree?
Not really. I think there are still some issues in the world where, certainly in workplace, the gender pay gap remains. They're not treated equally in most cases, women.
Well, that can be discussed, the gender pay gap. I think that's already been discussed at length. I think that there's actually...
You think women should go to work?
I think women should work completely.
You do?
Why wouldn't they?
Because in the parts of the country, of the world you were mentioning earlier, that have different views of women, they don't go to work.
In the parts of the world that person from the podcast was from, for the point I made, yeah, they didn't. But I don't live in those parts of the world. I think women should be free to work if they choose. I think it's very important that the family unit remains. I do believe that in my personal view, the most important and respectful thing a woman can do is become a mother. I think that having children is a beautiful thing. But obviously, if a woman wants to work and wants to have a career, especially now with paternity leave or maternity leave, and she can manage to do both, why wouldn't I want women to work? I don't know why anyone would ever assume I don't want women to work or think women can't work, because I said that I should keep them safe sometimes.
Good.
No, but it's interesting because you have to look at this, Piers. It's interesting how people extrapolate. Andrew said that he's responsible for a woman's safety, and he said that gives him authority to make decisions for her safety, and that's been misconstrued, and he's a bad person. He believes that women are property. But now we believe that Andrew doesn't believe in love. Andrew doesn't believe women should work. I don't know where all of that comes from.
Well, that's why I'm glad we've had a chance to discuss
Completely. I believe women are sovereign individuals, and they can make any choice they so desire. I think that it's important that we remember that a man has a duty. I think I certainly in my relationship have a financial responsibility to provide for my woman. My woman would never have to work unless she wanted to, because I'm the kind of person who works hard enough that she wouldn't have to.
Should young men, though, all aspire to be like you?
Should young men aspire to work very hard, have no criminal record, become multimillionaires, protect and provide for the women close to them, be sovereign so they can stand up and have their own points of view in face of cancellation, be able to not be mentally intimidated when they go on national TV and there's traps set up for them? Yeah, I believe that confident, strong men who stand up and protect and provide for women are a good thing for the world and a good force for the world. And I don't think that I put a magic spell on anybody. I think there's a whole bunch of men in the world who understands my value. And if men grow up to be like me, you're going to have a whole bunch of people with no criminal record, dedicated athletes, who protect and provide for the people close to them, are fantastic for the economy. And I'm certainly not the worst influence out here, Piers. You have Lil Nas twerking on the devil on music videos, which our children are digesting. You have drill artists singing about stabbing people to death in the middle of a knife crime epidemic. You have rabid psychopaths on whether the right or the left announcing violence on the other side. You have all these insanities in the world. And because I sit here and say, yeah, perhaps, now you've laid it out and it offended you, I understand.
I didn't say it offended me.
Okay, cool.
I just read you the things.
You read things that you said they could be offensive, and some people are offended.
Well, some people definitely were offended.
Absolutely. That's fine.
And honestly, I think some of the things you said were genuinely offensive and misogynist.
Okay, so they offended you.
And
like I said earlier. So they offended you, which is fine. I said they offended you, you interrupted me, and now you're saying they offended you, which is fine. But the point I'm trying to make is this. I'm not the devil. There are certainly worse people than me. And
I don't disagree
and they exist.
with that.
And I'm saying that my core tenets for the people who don't understand me are self-accountability, so I'm accountable for everything I've ever said. My core tenets are responsibility, so I'm responsible for everything I've said. My core tenets are traditional masculinity to a degree, which involves protecting and providing for women. And I'll make another point here that needs to be said. The number of women who have stood up and stuck up for me is ignored. Thousands of women are making videos saying, I've met Andrew Tate, he's such a nice guy. I wish I had a man like Andrew Tate who felt responsible to protect and provide for me. You know what? I do belong to my husband, that's why I married him and I love him. We ignore the thousands of women who stood up and stood by me and said everything I said is true. And we're taking a very vocal minority who have taken things I've said and are pretending to be absolutely and utterly devastated by them for some reason.
All right, time out.
Sure.
You've had a good run there.
Sure.
An inquest this week found that a 14-year-old girl, Molly Russell, died from an act of self-harm while suffering from depression and the negative effects of online content. The coroner said she was exposed to material that may have influenced her in a negative way, and in addition, what started as depression had become a much more serious depressive illness, and she very sadly took her life.
That's absolutely disgusting.
Right. Her father.
It's terrible.
Her father's campaign for better protections against potentially dangerous social media algorithms, right? It says that the particularly graphic content she saw romanticized acts of self-harm, normalized her condition, and focused on a limited and irrational view without any counterbalance of normality. First of all, what is your response to that? Nothing to do with you.
That's the first thing. Yeah, it is nothing to do with me. The fact that a 14-year-old girl took her life is truly sad. The world we live in today is the world we live in. The fact that something like that happened is almost mind-blowing to me. That's truly sad. I actually feel sad inside to see something like that. This fact that they just said it's romanticizing the gory element. I don't know what she was watching, some kind of suicide videos thing. I don't know where these things are created.
Do you think the tech companies should be much tougher about stuff like this?
I don't know what kind of things she watched, obviously. I have to be a professional here. I think that the tech companies need to do their best to protect people, I guess, to a degree, but it's a slippery slope, isn't it? And then they use this slippery slope to silence some people and to
Right, and I think it's a really fine line, and it's a complicated line.
It is very.
I was interested in when you did an interview with the Times. Hugo Rifkin, he's a very good journalist. We did a big interview with him, and it was interesting to me his conclusion, because he kind of concluded that although he found a lot of the things he said awful and offensive, and he didn't like them, and he didn't want to be that kind of person that would say those kind of things, nor could he actually work out exactly what you'd done, which deserved